Here we come, blue and white, and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight, and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job, and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Brunton Bugle, the number one place to get your Kynet fix in the podcast world. I'm Lee Rooney.
I'm Mike Booth.
And I'm Dan McLennan.
The Harrogate hoodoo continues as the Blues once again failed to beat the North Yorkshire side, slumping to a miserable 3-0 defeat. We look back on the defeat as well as a preview of two ball men fighting over a comb, aka the visit of Stevenage to Brunton Park. We might cover a little bit of news as well, because there's not much happened this week, has there? I think it's fair to say.
Quiet, isn't it?
In fact, to be honest, because obviously you went to the game at the weekend, Dan, didn't you? I think you'd rather not talk about the game, wouldn't you, if possible?
Well, my match review is, I'll be honest, it's going to be short.
Yes. It's a one word. It starts with D and ends in Ogshite, I think is the correct way to put it. It's that wasn't great, was it? And this weekend's game will be it's either going to be a barnstormer with a load of goals, or it'll be a repeat of that Walsall game at the end of last season, won't it, I think?
Yeah.
So, yeah. I suppose we should get straight into the news. There's the youth team finished their season, the last batch of Bradford tickets. Oh, wait, no, hang on. Paul Simpson is staying at Brunton Park. Confirmed, yes. Thank you very much to Andy and Amy in the media team for getting that announced on a Wednesday evening rather than Thursday afternoon, as these things always happen usually. But yeah.
Can you imagine if it actually came out just now as we were recording?
It would have been chaos. Our running order would have gone out the window, basically. But
yeah.
But there you go. Yeah, so the news that we've all been praying and waiting for has been confirmed yesterday. Paul Simpson will be staying as United boss after agreeing a 3-year deal to keep him at Brunton Park until the summer of 2025. He's had a huge impact since returning. I don't think anyone would doubt that. I mean, even allowing for the sort of little downturn into form of late, but I mean that's to be expected the way they played over those 5 or 7 games, I think, to keep themselves safe. But it's not just off the pitch, is it? It's on the pitch, it's off the pitch where he's had an impact as well. He really has galvanised the support, as we've seen with the Bradford ticket sales, which we'll touch on shortly. But yeah, it really is time, isn't it, Dan, to get behind Simmo, because he's got a chance to build something here, hasn't he? I mean, 3-year deal especially shows that the club know that it's a big job he's got to do.
Yeah, I think it's probably the opportunity of a generation, to be quite honest, because since we came back into League Two in 2014, we've just bumbled along aimlessly for several years. We did well under Abbott in League One, apart from the last season, which was probably a season too far. And ever since, it's just been almost a decade of mismanagement, bumbling along, wrong decisions, indecision from the boardroom. And I think, well, I hope that they themselves have realised that by offering the 3-year contract, it is, this is the time, I mean, do we really want to be knocking about the bottom of League Two for the rest of our lives? No.
Of course not.
The away followings since Paul Simpson came back have shown what this club's capable of. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit do or die without being over dramatic. It's let's give it a proper go and see what happens.
Yeah, it's interesting about bumbling about. I mean, some might argue back, well, we've had a couple of decent seasons there, but actually, I'd agree with you in that when it's come to making key decisions during those seasons, we've messed up. I mean, the biggest example is the Charlie Wyke sale, isn't it? That money should have been reinvested in another striker. Whether it got us promotion or not, it would have set us up for the following season, hopefully. And we ended up spunking all the money on, was it $4,000 a week on Jamie Proctor on loan from Thing? Which was not good management of the money in the slightest. But, I mean, we're getting into another story altogether now if we talk about the way money was managed under Keith Curle's spell as manager. I mean, interesting comments from him, Mike, isn't it? That's come out, and other bits that have come out this week, and Michael Bridges allegedly going to be down watching training today and tomorrow, I think it is, after his trip over for the Legends game at the weekend. Do you fancy Bridges maybe for a coaching role?
Yeah, well, if he's the right man for the job, I don't think there's any sense in giving it to someone purely on sentiment.
Yeah.
But if he's the right man for the job, I think we may well be getting another coach as well as an assistant manager, like we always used to. Because obviously Simmo has been saying for weeks that everything had to be right, sort of, for him, and the club had to offer him the things that he needed and wanted. And I'm guessing with him signing the contract that's exactly what they've done. And he said as well, he didn't ask for 3 years. That was the club that gave him 3 years. And I think as fans, I think you sort of hinted at it the other week, Lee, is that we need to just trust the process. Like things might not be wonderful next season, but we need to just have faith, let him do what he has to do, because by all accounts, a lot of things off the pitch, they need a complete and utter overhaul.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I'd repeat it again. I think I've seen a few people tweeting, getting very excited, as you want to get excited about something like this, Simmo getting the job for 3 years. I've heard some people saying, we're on for promotion next season. I think we need to be very careful on this. And I think Simmo's been quite good with this in his interviews. He said, look, we want to win as many games as possible next season, but it's not a quick and easy fix here. There's a lot of work that's been in the background. And you touched on, things not being right behind the scenes. I mean, there's only a short clip come out before we recorded today. That was the YouTube clip that the club put up yesterday. But it was pretty scathing again on the recruitment side. Without naming he who shall not be named, the clown car noise on this episode will not be getting used, hopefully. He was pretty clear how bad that person had run things, wasn't he? I mean, he said that literally he's coming in without any database at all of the players that we can sign, which suggests that we keep it on, we got these lists and stuff. What were these lists? Was it just, a few agents that you knew that maybe could do you a favour every now and then and stuff?
I don't even think we had that.
It's incredible, isn't it? But the good thing is the club are giving him a budget to do that, which I'm guessing comes from the money that basically was spent on he who shall not be named, his wage. Basically, I think that's essentially what's going into getting a chief scouted or some sort of decent setup there. I mean, it doesn't sound like he wants to get rid of people, Simpson. I think what he wants to do is make it a bit bigger and better. And we're not talking about breaking the bank and spending huge amounts of money. I don't even think he necessarily needs an experienced coach or assistant alongside him, because he's the experienced one now, isn't he? He's got nearly 20 years of experience in management now. So I think you're right. I think there probably will be a coach to come in alongside, maybe work alongside him and Gav. He seems to get on fairly well with Gav, seems to be working really well. I wonder, Dan, do you reckon there's a good chance that Paul Gerrard will be confirmed as a permanent goalkeeping coach? Because he seems to be doing a decent job. I mean, I've noticed particularly that Mark Howard's distribution seems to have stepped up a little bit since he's come in.
Yeah, I think he'll keep Gerrard if Gerrard wants to say. I mean, Simpson 3 year. You'd like to think he'd be able to offer at least 2 years to Falk. I think Skelton stays for the continuity. He gets a lot of bad press, Gav, but I think people fail to understand the role of a coach, and that's to do as the manager asks. And people say, Gav's been here under Presley and Millen and Beach. He's only doing what they ask him to do, which is his job,
And it is actually useful sometimes to have a bit of that continuity there, and someone who does know the club, does know the area as well. I know Simpson's from the area as well, but,
he's moving back, isn't he?
He is, indeed, yeah. He said he's moving up, obviously with the 3 year deal. He's shown commitment, like the club has shown commitment to him, which is really good to see, to be fair. And, yeah, I mean, just generally, just feel a lot more positive now. I mean, we'll talk again about the Bradford ticket soon, but there could be a big following there. It's going to be fantastic, and you get the feeling the fans are ready to get behind the club. And actually, other bits he's talked about, hasn't he, Mike, is off the field stuff, not just in terms of him setting up his coaching setup and recruitment setup. It's stuff like the commercial side and getting people to come down and and to sponsor the club and do things like that. Someone like Paul Simpson, he is quite charismatic in that way. He's very, he's not like a charismatic, big, brash character sort of type, but he speaks well and he gets people on board, doesn't he? And you get the impression that local organisations might even buy into that.
Yeah, definitely. And we've seen it before. When this team is doing well and the club's doing well, the whole city is buzzing, and everyone wants to be a part of it. And I think get in now, while you can, because I think it could well be a wild ride. Obviously, not expecting anything immediately, but we saw the last time, and if we can have half of that buzz that we had last time I was here, then we'll be going very well, won't we?
Definitely.
On that, I will add, why weren't season ticket sales announced this morning? They're due to be announced any day. My mate picked his Bradford ticket up on Monday, and he was told later in the week, "You've just made the biggest news of the last 5 years."
I wonder if it's one of those ones you want to time it for the Friday so you get it in, Radio Cumbria.
Why wait? Why wait?
I sort of get you with the why wait thing, but actually sometimes it's a good way
you
of
don't
doing
have
it.
to put them. You don't have to put them on sale at 10 a.m. this morning.
Oh no!
You can announce them and say, Simpson's staying. Get on board. Let's get everyone on. Season ticket news. These will go on sale from 10 a.m. Monday.
I wonder if the Simpson news was put out a little bit earlier than planned, because obviously there was a story that emerged on the Cumbria Crack website, didn't it, earlier on Thursday, suggesting that they said they heard he was definitely going to get the job. I'm not saying they've broken embargo or anything, but maybe they've heard something from someone and they've let it out, and then the club have thought, well, let's just get the news out there now. Maybe I might be wrong on that. There might well be.
There was a whisper going round the night before that there was an announcement imminent. But also, that whisper mentioned there'd be more than one an announcement.
Yeah. So I wonder if maybe it was supposed to come on Thursday and then you follow up on the Friday with the season ticket on.
Maybe.
I don't have a problem with them waiting maybe one extra day for the season ticket stuff. If they get it out on Friday.
Or did Keir Starmer land and they thought, let's get Robert Peston in on the act and all sorts,
Yeah, exactly. That was certainly a busy evening, wasn't it, Brunton Park? We won't get into politics on the show because we're not interested in talking about it on this show. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens now. Obviously, he's now got to start looking at retain lists and stuff like that. We'll discuss who we think should be retained next week, basically on the show, because it'll essentially be our sort of in the news section around it. I think we'll do a little sort of rundown of who we think should stay and who should go. But we'll get onto the Harrogate review section. It could be quite a brutal list based on what he said after that game. He was not impressed, so be interesting to see what happens there. Right, let's move on to the other news section bits before we do the Harrogate review. First up, let's talk about Bradford tickets, as I've mentioned there. The last batch of Bradford tickets have gone on sale, so United have been given, I think it's an extra 844, I think it is, tickets for the game not this weekend, sorry, next weekend, the final game of the season. Trip down to Valley Parade to take on Bradford City. Already sold over 1,200 tickets, which is incredible for a dead rubber at the end of the season. It really, isn't it? Yeah, that's the sort of thing you expect when you go for promotion, isn't it, really? Superb stuff. I expect that 800 will sell out probably as well. Now with that good news about Simpson, there's a real good feel-good factor there. One word of warning, though, isn't there, Dan, in terms of those tickets?
Yeah. No food, no hot drinks, food or alcohol on sale in that stand, which is absolutely ridiculous in this day and age. But
even Bradford had drinks.
Cannibalism, I think.
It says no hot drinks, so they may be offering like cans of Pepsi or something,
I mean, that'll be funny, but
on a trestle table.
It's the 21st century. Even Barrow had facilities. You couldn't find them, but there were facilities there in the away end. I'll tell you that much. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be terrific, that, isn't it, Dan? And again, it's like you said, it's another sign with these big away followings of what this club can actually do if it's run right and the right people are put in place. So,
well, we'll look at the away following since Paul Simpson returned. I mean, you've got to remember, Barrow and Harrogate both 600, because that's all the tickets they gave us. Barrow would have been 2,000 plus. Harrogate would probably have been 1,000,
Yeah, I mean, then you've got Oldham, obviously, we took, 1,300 there, was it, I think?
Yeah.
And
700 to Orient,
700 to Orient.
700 to Walsall.
About 800 or something to Tranmere as well,
Yeah.
And if you go back a couple of seasons, when we went to Walsall for a game that actually meant something, Mike, remember around about Christmas 2019, I think we only had about 500 there that day. It might have even been less, so it shows you can really, really get a good following at this club if it's run properly. Next bit before we do the loan review roundup. We don't really talk much about the under-18 team on the show, so we maybe do it a little bit more next season, but I thought it was just worth mentioning the under-18s wrapped up their season at the weekend, didn't they? They got a 5-1 win over Morecambe, securing second place in the EFL, I think it's the Northwest Alliance League. They're well behind Preston in the end, unfortunately.
Preston are a notch above most of the teams, aren't they?
Yeah, but what we've done is we've took ourselves ahead of Blackpool, who've been ahead of us for quite a while in recent seasons, I think. So fantastic to see that. We finished comfortably in third place above Blackpool. Blackpool have still got a couple of games to play, but they can't, I think they can get within 7 points, something like that. So it's not really even close. So obviously the game of the weekend, Sam Fishburn grabbed himself a hat-trick. Back playing, that'll be his last game under 18 level, actually, won't it? Because he's second year. So
I think I need to check on this. There is a rule now where you can play either one or two first-year pros in your youth team just to get them football, if you know what I mean.
I have a feeling one of them has to be a goalkeeper, possibly. I think
right.
Or you can have some. Maybe they got. I think I'd rather young Lewis Boyd got a bit of action rather than those two. But the other two keepers, that is, sorry. Obviously Sam Fishburn got a hat-trick, and there was a brace for Nick Bellardo. Bellardo finished top scorer for the youth team this season, 22 goals he got. I think it's a matter of time. If he starts next season, well, he'll get a pro deal, you'd imagine, wouldn't you? Because any striker who's scoring 20-odd goals for the youth team, they've got to give a pro deal to, don't they? Because they don't want to risk him going somewhere else and embarrassing them by scoring for them instead. Sam Fishburn actually got 12 goals, despite the fact that he probably missed a decent chunk of the season through being at Lancaster City, and then obviously with the first team up until about January-ish, I think it wasn't when Millen took over. Fantastic for the two of them. I imagine Fishburn would have got 20 actually if he'd been there the whole season with them. They probably would have won the league, to be honest, with Bellardo and Fishburn up front. So far of the second year YTSs, 4 of them have been given pro deals. That's Gabe Breeze, Scott Simons, they're the two keepers, Sam Fishburn, and obviously captain Jack Ellis.
Someone said the first 3 of those were given them last summer.
Yes, exactly. So they've been effective. Well, not effectively pros, but they've been working with the first team for quite a while now. That means Max Kilsby, Joshua Barnett, DJ Taylor, Charlie Watt, and Dylan Garvey are all awaiting their decisions now. Should note, Garvey's actually on loan at Berkeley Town at the moment, or work experience. I don't know which one it is classed as. I suspect that suggests that maybe his decision's been taken and it's just a case of getting in some football. So in terms of the others, Kilsby seems to feature a bit for the reserve team, so whether he'll get a deal, I don't know. I think Charlie Watt's one they really like, isn't he? But again,
to be honest, with the youth team, I think if 1 or 2 sign a pro deal every year, you're doing well. We've took a bit of a gamble in recent seasons by signing 3, 4, 5, and there's not many have really worked out.
No,
I think he who won't be named had this. He's talked 1 or 2 of them up a little bit too much.
Yeah.
But I think as well it's down to EPPP, isn't it?
You're protecting your asset, aren't you, basically? That's what you're doing, essentially. By giving them 2-year deals instead of 1-year deals. You're absolutely right, Mike. The EPP thing means that clubs, these days now, we have to look and think, well, if this player really is as good as we hope he might be...
if you sign 4 of them on, their combined wage is equivalent to 1... proper first team pro. So it's a low risk gamble, and it also pads your squad out for when you do have a run of injuries and you need a couple on the bench. And
I think it'd be
if one strikes and makes it, it's been worth a gamble.
I think it'd be nice to maybe almost build up enough to have almost an under 23 squad that could be padded out by youth team players there that you can play games. Someone did actually message us. I forgot to mention this. Someone had emailed us and asked if you asked the question of the thing: do we think the Blues should look to join a proper reserve league next season?
Yes.
I know, Dan, you were going to say straight away yes for this. I'd love them to, but I don't think there's any real competitive reserve leagues out there these days. The old Pontins one and stuff like that, it doesn't exist in the same. You've got the Central Cup, haven't you, which we play each season. We play like, I think, is it 6 games you play in total? I think in the league setup.
No, we play 3. We play 3.
I thought you played home and away against both teams.
No, it's changed. You used to, I think. But I'm going to go off on my tangent here because one, I think reserve team football should be part of being in the league. But 2, I also think there should be a proper full 92 team setup. I mean, I know you've got Premier League 2 for the very best of them, but the rest should be divided into regional groups, play once a fortnight on a Monday afternoon or something, and just, and if you don't put a certain level of team out, you get docked points and fines,
It's difficult, isn't it? It's the cost is as much as the problem, isn't it, really? And that's, I think
is there that much cost? Is there that much cost?
This is the thing. It's having a big enough squad.
They're getting paid the wages. They're getting paid the wages anyway.
It's having a big enough squad.
You're only talking about a bus, and most teams have a minibus or something.
I'm sure there's reasons why they don't do it anymore, because it used to be a regular thing, didn't it? But it's just not really as practical these days. I think the problem is that the big teams stockpile so many players now. Teams at our level don't have as big a squad as they used to do.
Well, that's going to change a bit because the number of loanees you're allowed to send out is changing, isn't it?
True. Which worries me, because that means they'll start pushing for the B teams in the league again, won't they? But
speaking of, which brings me on nicely to a bit you forgot to put in.
Yeah.
And there are discussions amongst Premier League clubs about whether the B teams are worth having in the EFL Trophy. Well, that was in the Daily Mail this week, wasn't it?
It's true. Like we don't like to talk about that competition unless it's the fact that the competition's about to have its downfall. It'll be interesting to see what happens, whether they go back to doing the normal format for that. It's a really interesting one, isn't it? It's
if these teams go out of it, I'll be going back. But my worry is the damage has been done already.
Yeah, and the fact that all the funding will go means that they won't have the funding really to boost the competition anymore.
I mean, I'm opposed to B teams, but since they've been introduced, England reached a World Cup semi-final and a Euros final. So, you can't argue with the facts that it really has helped the national team.
How many of those players played in that competition?
I mean, they might have played while on loan for teams in that competition, maybe, but they certainly didn't play for the under-23s in those teams, did they? You're right. Maybe we'll discuss that on next week's episode or one of the upcoming episodes, Dan. But it'd be interesting because what would you do with that competition? How would you change cup competitions in England? That'd be a good little discussion actually to have maybe on a future episode, because we've all got different views. I'd love to see a UK Cup or something like that, really. I think that would be exciting. I don't think the authorities think it exciting.
I'll say it quickly, but we'll go into more detail when we discuss it. I would get rid of the League Cup for the Premier League because they're not interested until the final. And I would make an EFL Cup for the 72.
Be interesting way of doing it. Right, okay, well, we'll touch on that on another episode anyway. Do you want to briefly talk about the Legends game? None of us were able to make it to the game, would we, unfortunately? But it looked like a good day out.
The newly formed ex-players fund. There's always been a Carlisle United OAP team, and I think it's just sort of got a bit more professional.
Yeah, it's formalised, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I think it's Chris Lumsden, Paul Murray, Derek Walsh and Colin Carter are involved in the running of it. They had, originally this game was penciled in for Penrith, which was ridiculous. I think it was justifiably onto Brunton Park, given that nearly 1,400 turned up. And it was basically 94-95 against 05-06, and looked like a good afternoon by all accounts.
Yeah, it looked really good, didn't it? Steve Hayward scored a penalty, didn't he, I think, for the 94-90. Did he score 2 points, actually?
Michael Bridges with a free kick for the ages.
Oh, wonderful, wasn't it? Letitia style, wasn't it, really? Carl Hawley grabbed a couple, didn't he? Did Danny Graham get one? Did I imagine that? I really feel really bad because I've sort of half following on Sunday.
Carl Hawley got 2.
Well, there you go. So Mike was following it a little bit closer than the pair of us, I think it's fair to say.
Well, that's just trying to watch the highlights with that crazy rock music. in the background.
They even had a VAR decision, the first ever one at Brunton Park, which was lovely to see. Yeah. It was nice to see, obviously, I'm just listing through some of the players. Obviously, Mick Wadsworth and Paul Simpson were the respective managers. But a list of the players somewhere: Michael Bridges, Carl Hawley, Tony Elliott, who apparently, sign him up for next season the way he played by all accounts. He had a blinding game. I mean, that's Tony though, isn't it? He's still coaching and still in great shape. Darren Edmondson. Andy Hart is an interesting one, isn't it, Dan? He's the mystery player.
Andy Hart is the mystery man who everyone always says, who's that on the famous picture in the Neil? He was from Leeds. John Coleman did a great interview with him in the News and Star, so I won't spoil Andy Hart's story. Have a look at that. It's a good read. But how dare you not list the French Prince first?
Well, I'm reading the list off the official website here, so that
I don't care.
So do you want me to start again?
First.
Do you want me to start again?
His Royal Highness.
Okay, let me start again. His Royal Highness the French Ambassador Stéphane Punavachi, Michael Bridges, Carl Hawley, Tony Elliott, Darren Edmondson, Andy Hart, Paul Murray, Jeff Thorpe, playing his first game in 20 years, he was saying. I saw on Facebook, he was posting. I said he really enjoyed it. It was good for him because it was the first time his kids got to see him play, which is nice. One of your favourites as well, Dan, Paul Proudlock, Richard Procass.
I'll tell you something. I saw the picture of Paul Proudlock. He was looking bloody good, wasn't he?
He looks in good shape, doesn't he? Yeah.
Looking good, Nick.
Yeah, Richard Procass, Gavin Skelton, Gareth McAlinden, Tony Craig, Ian Arnold, Matty Glennon, Danny Livesey, Tom Cowan, Peter Murphy, Kevin Gray, Simon Hackney, Luke Joyce, got to run out, Lee Andrews, David Raven, Jeff Smith, who again we were told looks in terrific shape. I mean, he's a personal trainer, so he should be, really, shouldn't he? Dolly had a run out. David Wilkes even played. Derek Walsh, Steve Hayward, and Brendan McGill. I think there's a couple of others.
Here's a one for future. Create a best 11 out of them two squads.
That'll be interesting. That'll be some discussion, wouldn't it? Also, they're lending the support, actually, we should say, with Derek Mountfield, Dean Walling, Billy Bart, don't boo Dan, Andy Horner, the former kit man under the 05-06 era, and obviously Fred Story was there in the director's box. So,
the likes of Les O'Neill, etc., were there at half time.
Fantastic. It is really, I mean, the club really needs to harness this a bit more, things like this, doesn't it? And you do wonder if maybe even like for an actual match, you name like a match of legends, then you just get a lot of legends to turn up once a season, basically, and you get to see them, get them on the pitch at half time, get them around the stands, talking to people and things like that. It'd be fantastic, wouldn't it, really? So there you go. So anyway, that's the Legends game covered. Hopefully we'll see more things like this in the future involving United. So fantastic. Right, loan updates. Do you want to pick this one up, Mike? Because me and Dan have done quite a bit of talking. So you can run through the loan updates today.
Yeah, go on. Right, so we have Taylor Charters. Obviously, after getting themselves back on top of the table over the Easter weekend, they've given themselves a healthy cushion over second place. Gateshead have made things a bit tighter again after being held to a draw against Kettering Town this weekend. Charter started this game on the bench and came on as a 68th minute sub with a score at 1-1, but he wasn't able to help his side find a winner. Brackley Town beat Darlington 2-0 in their game, meaning the gap is now down to 2 points with just 3 games left. It's one hell of a title race, that, isn't it?
Well, it's mad, isn't it? And an interesting point, I spotted that when I was looking at the table. Gateshead have scored 92 goals and conceded 42 across the season, while Brackley, they've only scored 51. But they've only conceded 20. So
of that 92, I wonder how many are between Scott, Campbell,
and Langstaff.
Yeah. I would wager about 60.
Yeah, something like that.
It's mad, isn't it? Yeah. But it's going to be a very exciting end to the season. I think they've both got games against teams that are sort of challenging for the playoffs, so could end up being a really, really tight one, that.
Definitely. Tristan Abrams, after a brief appearance for him this week, his contribution was huge, though, as he scored the winning goal in a 2-1 win over Torquay at Blundell Park, which brings him to 3 goals in 15 games now. So, he's really hit the ground running there.
To be fair, I'd say a lot of them will have been from the bench.
Yeah, they have been.
10 off the bench, so it's quite a few. But I mean, 91st minute penalty, he had the nuts on him to step up and take that and convert it. It's a big win for them as well, isn't it, really? Because they're now, I think they're sitting, 6 6 points clear in the playoff places, so it looks like they should be okay.
But have you seen the thing? The National League playoff final is at the London Stadium.
Yeah.
So it's not at Wembley. It's at West Ham's ground.
Yeah.
But pretty much all of the teams that are in the playoffs are northern, basically.
Yeah.
It's insane, isn't it? You've got, I think, was it Wrexham, Chesterfield, Notts County, Grimsby, Halifax, and Solihull's the nearest, basically. All the rest are north of Birmingham, essentially. It's absolute... Oh, no, sorry, Nottingham, not Notts County. Well, Notts County is not a little bit north of Birmingham, I'm not sure. But basically, yeah, you've got two Midlands teams and teams from the northwest.
Yeah.
Solihull is the most southerly. Nottingham is comfortably further north than Birmingham.
Yeah, well, there you go. So, madness.
And the other loanee this week was obviously Manny Mampala, who made two more sub-appearances, but it was another two defeats, confirming Weymouth's relegation to National League South.
To be fair, he got a combined 20 minutes over those two games. You know, that's a step up. So,
with the way some of the National League North and South teams are split, I'm amazed that Weymouth are in the National League South. To be honest, I thought they might put them in the National League North.
Could be close to where he goes. But no, yeah. So it's there you go. That's Weymouth relegated. I mean, not a massive surprise, really. To be honest, they've been pretty poor for a while. They were 1-0 up against Wrexham, though, which is madness, really. At half-time, 1-0 up. Lost 6-1, so clearly it didn't go that well, did it? So
Wrexham struggle against these teams, though, because Dover, that mental game the other week.
But they've always got that bit of power to get themselves back in, haven't they? Yeah. There you go. Well, let's talk about let's move on to the match review section then. Dan, your chance to shine. I'm sure you don't really want to. Harrogate 3, Carlisle United 0. Have to say, not disappointed at all that I missed this game. No, really. I was getting a train to Manchester to go to a gig, and as I was getting ready to walk to the station, I got the alert through the first goal. I thought, yeah, pretty glad I'm not there now then, really. Not a good afternoon in the office, is it fair to say, Dan?
Dog shit.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Is that it? What was your day out in Harrogate like? Because I thought it's an
Harrogate's a lovely place.
It's
a lovely place.
Did you get to Betty's tea rooms? No.
No, we did walk nearby, but we were just woeful. Harrogate wanted it. We looked like we were on the beach. I was impressed with Jack Diamond for them. Certainly one I would like to go for in the summer if it was available.
Yeah.
No, and I think Paul Simpson pretty much summed it up afterwards, saying that wasn't good enough. It was just atrocious. Yeah, I thought poor defending for the first two. We just looked disjointed. We looked like we did in that Swindon game.
People said it was pretty much as bad as that Swindon game, really. And
yeah.
Bear in mind, as good as Diamond is, he's not Harry McCurdy, is he? He's not somebody who's going to get at you. So, in the same way, so it's pretty disappointing, really. I mean, just going through the goals, from what I've seen on YouTube, you might want to come out on this otherwise, but Diamond was the one who started the move, wasn't he, for the first goal? He was out on the left wing. He got past Riley a bit too easily, and then Devine just does not track him at all, does he? Really, really sloppy stuff. It's played out wide to the Harrogate right, and Thompson's got way too much time to get that crossing. Armour does not get out to close him down at all, does he? He just sort of stands off him, and the ball comes in, and then I'm not sure what Mark Howard was actually doing for the goal.
I don't know if it was a miscommunication between the centre backs and the keeper or what, but Diamond literally ran through a lot of them and pokes it in. You know.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it, really? It's not great at all. Second goal, McCardle header from a free kick. I mean, first thoughts when I watch it back on YouTube is, it wasn't that far wide off Patrick, and if he'd sort of dived across of it to head in the wall, could he have stopped it maybe? Maybe I'm being a little bit critical here, but it didn't fly right over his head, did it? It seemed almost head high. I mean, but the ball coming in, Armour and Feeney, I don't know who's meant to be picking him up.
It was very similar to the first for me, in that their player just helps himself through our defence who don't know what they're doing.
I can't work out whether it's Armour or Feeney who should be marking him, or if Mellish has lost his marker, because he seems to come from a bit deeper. It's a great header, but it's not good marking at all. Third goal, it was just rubbing salt in the wind, wasn't it? I mean,
We made them look like prime Barcelona, didn't we?
Yeah, the video that they put up, wasn't it, of them passing it about with about 20-odd passes. But, I mean, it's all right saying that, but, I mean, there's no pressure on them at all. They're all standing off.
I think it proved once and for all that we can't play two wide players in the middle three.
No, it cost you.
Because they just went through us. And that's not having a go at Gibson or Dickinson. You know, both didn't have the best of games, but both aren't central midfielders for me.
Yeah.
You know, and
then you look
I was just about to say Divine's a big disappointment. You know, he's playing for a contract, and you know, on recent showings, he doesn't get one for me.
No, I'd be surprised if he did, to be honest, based on what I've seen recently. I mean, there's not really a huge amount else to say, is there, really, in terms of the actual game? I mean, like you said, Dan, they just lacked intensity, didn't they? They didn't look like we were happy with being safe and didn't feel
like they had the flip-flops on. You know?
Yeah, which I hate that term because, I mean, I'm sure that's not the way they're thinking as players, but that's the way it comes across, isn't it, when you see it? It's disappointing. Interesting thing I noticed, actually, watching the YouTube highlights video is there's a voice you can constantly hear when Harrogate are on the ball, isn't there? And it's Paul Furwell's voice. Very, very vocal. Interesting hearing the way he's coaching them, because we have heard before, haven't we, that basically he does a lot of the coaching at Harrogate, actually, rather than Weaver, who's the manager. He's more a manager in that sense rather than a coach. So that was very interesting to see. But yeah, nice enough day out in North Yorkshire then, Dan. Obviously you got a lift back in, didn't you?
Yes and no, because on the train, we went on the train, three of us, and as we're on the train down, another fella Blue came up and said, "Oh, you're on the last one back from Leeds." Went, "Yeah," and he said, "Oh, it's cancelled." So cue a couple of messages, and big shout out to my mate Martin and his son Craig, who is our youngest listener, I think. He said that we could only get a lift back with him if you got a shout out on the podcast. So thanks again, Craig. Look forward to you coming on as a guest next season, Paul. We'll sort that out for you.
Like I said,
because we've got a few ideas for next season involving fans. So. Yeah. But no, we managed to get a lift back, and I was on Botchergate for 7 p.m. So
lovely stuff.
Not too bad.
You say the shout out's getting in there. I'm cutting that bit out, by the way. I'm just joking. Craig, here's your shout out. Thank you very much to you and your dad for giving Dan a lift back to Carlisle after the game. Top
man.
Yeah, so it's somewhere worth doing next season as an away trip, you know, maybe. Hopefully with a bigger allocation next time.
Yeah, I'm in no rush to go back. I mean, it doesn't even feel like you're at a football ground. You know, I mean, the ground's well out of town. You know, it's not a long stroll from the station, and the boozer pre-match, the Empress was quite a big boozer. You know, it was decent. But when you cross the main roads and walk down the ground just appears. You know, it's
kind of like going to like a non-league team in the FA Cup almost, isn't it?
Yeah. It's small, it's neat, it does them. You know, I mean, there was only 2,700 there, I think, and we were 600. But
I mean, it's balmy that they reduced the allocation so much for this special fans day, and then didn't even bloody sell the tickets. That's baffling.
To be fair, I think it looked a little bit more than the same. But I wonder where you would get the same amount of fans in again if it holds 5,000.
Yeah, maybe.
If you know what I mean. But...
Yeah. Oh, well, before we wrap up the first half of the show, let's quickly talk about Simmo's post-match comments. You very briefly touched on it there, Dan, when you were talking about the game. He was quite scathing, wasn't he, Mike? When I watched him,
rightfully so.
I mean, he basically said, embarrassing. And he said, didn't he, I'm going to have to be careful what I say here because I need them for the last 2 games.
Yeah. I think one thing for me in this team is it's kind of annoyed me a bit is that they were capable of the new manager bounce under Millen, and they were capable of playing well under Beach for periods. And it just seems like if they're not up for it, they're just not up for it. And if you can't be up for it with Paul Simpson as your manager, there's serious questions that need to be asked. And I think what he'll want to do in the summer is bring in sort of some of them generals, if you like, for
good
him.
Characters.
Who will help sort of put that passion and motivation on the pitch where he can't.
Yeah, absolutely. You really hope he can do that in the summer. Just a few of the bits he said. Obviously, like I said, he was so scathing. He basically said lost first contact, second contact, pulling out of tackles, that kind of thing. Suggested actually that the Mansfield result kidded us a little bit, and that the Harrogate performance was a harsh reality of actually where we are as a club, and again emphasised the need for an overhaul, which we now know he's going to be able to do, thankfully, and that players actually need to start fighting and scrapping for their careers. I suspect there's a fair few players he maybe was on the fence about in that team that day, that he's maybe thought, actually I can quite happily let you go. You're not going to be good enough. So yeah, very interesting to see what he does over the next week or two, basically, when he announces the retain list and things like that. But yeah, just not really good enough. It's interesting the way it's probably a little over point here, but the great thing with Simmo, and some managers you find when they do club interviews, they like the club interviewer to so almost set them up for their answer, and in a sense of saying, I want to talk about this, can you ask this? And I just got the impression with Andy's first question was straight to the point on it, of how bad we were. And he gave Simpson the chance to basically just say what he thought. Really, really interesting, I thought that was. But there you go.
I think there's a bit of, obviously they go way back, Andy and Simmo, and I think Andy knows he can ask him them questions, and Simmo will give him a decent, frank response, whereas other managers might get a bit, up their arse about being asked the questions that need to be asked.
Yeah.
And then as a result, sometimes people don't want to ask those questions.
No, it's a really fair point. I've had that before with people. Greg Abbott, lovely bloke, but ask him the wrong question and he could get quite spiky about it. So Paul's pretty good. He's pretty calm, well thought out figure, and again, I think we're going to see an improvement in terms of the amount of much stuff he talks about in the press and media as well. It's going to be it's a godsend to people like Andy and Amy, really, in terms of having a manager like that. So great to see. Right, I think that wraps up the first half of the show. 40 minutes, blimey, we've been talking for quite a bit, haven't we? But plenty covered. We'll take a short break now, and then we'll be back with the second half of the show.
This is John Mellish. You listen to the Brunton Bugle.
Okay, so it's time for the second half of the show, where we're going to be previewing the Stevenage game, the first of two dead rubbers against teams struggling down at the bottom with us. But before we do that, I've got to remind you that you can subscribe to the podcast through all good podcast apps. Now, normally at this point, I say Acast is one of the apps you can use, but unfortunately, Acast are closing their app down, which has really annoyed me because I use Acast as my podcast app because it's one of the easiest to use. It's really simple, and yeah, a bit of a bummer, that one. But so if you use Acast at the moment, just a reminder to yourself to go out and find another podcast app. I'm going to try Pocket Cast because I'm told that's quite good. Whether it is or not, I don't know. But if you've got an iPhone, Apple Podcast is supposedly a very good app to use. Google Podcast is decent enough, and Spotify as well. You can use. I like to keep my music and podcasts separate, so that's why I don't use Spotify. But yeah, if you go to any of those podcast apps, search for the Brunton Bugle, click subscribe, and every time a new episode comes out, it'll go straight into your podcast inbox, and you can download it and listen at your leisure. If you can give us a review on any of those apps as well, that'd be brilliant as well, especially on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. They're the two main ones that do reviews. So if you can give us reviews on them, that would be fantastic. A reminder as well, you can follow us on social media. We're on Twitter at Brunton Bugle. On Facebook, click like on the Brunton Bugle page. You can find us on the Be Just and Fear Not Facebook group as well, and on the Cumries.net message board. You can also contact us. You can contact us by email, bruntonbugle@gmail.com, and we are now also on Instagram, aren't we, Dan?
We are, yes. Yeah, so look out for lots of edgy, artistic
photos.
Content.
Yes, content. Hashtag content, I know. But no, we'll try and do a few little different bits on the Instagram page over the next season or so, obviously into next season. What we might do, me and Mike might do a little sort of story thing on there on our little trip to the Bradford game for the final game of the season. We'll try and speak to a few Blues as well to get their thoughts on Paul Simpson staying on as manager. So there you go. Another reminder as well that this season, the second half of the show has been sponsored by the Carl United Supporters Club London Branch. London Branch is open to all Carl United fans. They've got members from Cornwall to Dundee and Houston to Singapore, and of course every part of London and the South East. They regularly meet up on away trips as well as arranging many social events, sports games and fundraising for the club. They'll be providing us with information for the away games as part of the preview section of season 2. You can find out more about London Branch at their website, carlisle.londonbranch.org. Right, before we do the Behind Enemy Lines section, it's time for the question of the week. And this week, because all three of us won, and I've not done one of these in a while, it's my question. I'm going to ask you guys, it's a two-parter question, this one. There's a really quick one that I want you to answer now, and then we've got another one that we'll answer later on in the show, basically. But it's because obviously Paul Simpson has been confirmed as permanent manager again for the second spell. It's a Paul Simpson related question. So the first question I've got for you guys is, who scored the first goal of Paul Simpson's first spell as manager? So who was the first Carlisle player to score a goal in Paul Simpson's first spell as Carlisle manager? It came in a 3-2 win over Rochdale at Brunton Park. So
that was 03-04, wasn't it?
03-04, yes. So do you want to have a quick try and work out who that is?
Oh,
Was it McGill?
It wasn't Brendan McGill. He did score in that game, but it wasn't Brendan McGill.
what year would you say? 03-04?
03-04, yeah.
Oh.
I'm going to give you...
Who did we play? Rochdale?
Rochdale. I'll give you a combined 3 guesses, basically. So you've had 1, Brendan McGill.
Ooh. I'm trying to think who played for us that season. I will go with Craig Farrell.
It's not Craig Farrell. I think he did score in that game, but it wasn't him.
So have we got 2 of the scorers in the
I
game?
think you've got 2 of the scorers in the game, possibly. I'll double check that now, but I'm pretty sure you got 2 of the scorers in the game.
I know who it is.
Go on.
It was Paul Simpson himself.
It was Paul Simpson. He opened the score in that
trickster.
game. Yeah. Against his former club, that was. So there you go. Well done. You managed to get that question now. Following on up on that, in terms of goals under Paul Simpson, 40 over the 2 spells he's had in charge, 14 players have scored more than 5 goals, league goals this is, for the Blues. I want you to try and name all 14 at the end of the show.
For the sake of this, is non-league league?
Yes. I'm counting league fixtures in the conference as well. So it's basically league fixtures, whether it's League 2 or conference. Which players have scored scored more than 5 goals during Paul Simpson's spell? There's 14 of them in total, if you can name them. And if you can try and guess them up in order. What I'll do is I'll give you the numbers, and then you can try and guess as we go up, basically. So we'll do that later on in the show. Up next, it's the Behind Enemy Lines section. This week, I spoke to Matt from the Stevenage FC Podcast, which had a quick chat basically about why Stevenage has struggled so much over the last few years, in particular the fact that they've had, I think, 9 different managers since they were relegated back to League 2 with us in 2014. We also talked about some of the ground redevelopment work that's taken place at Broadhall Way in recent seasons, and whether Steve Evans is just the next natural step after having Graham Wesley as your manager so many times. So here's the chat I had with Matt earlier this week. Matt, we're talking ahead of this weekend's game, which is a little bit more relaxing than you might have expected it to be this weekend, a few weeks ago at the very least. But, I mean, looking back, I was just checking before when you guys came down to League 2, and I didn't realise it was actually the same time we did when we got relegated from League 1. Since then, you've had 9 different permanent managers, including 2 spells for Graham Wesley, of course, which is tradition. Why have you found it so hard to find the right man and get yourselves, back up challenging at the right end of the table?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Lee. And to be honest with you, it's been, obviously, as you can imagine, it's been a massive problem at our club at Stevenage. We've said this for a long, long time. We've been kind of incapable of signing the right Football League manager. And it's happened for such a long time at our club at Stevenage. Look, we've come down, and unfortunately, I think the kind of fault has to lie with the chairman, Phil Wallace, although he's done a brilliant job at the football club and he's achieved so much, and he's done so much for us as a football club with the stadium and with the club growth. But the one thing that we've all said as Stevenage supporters that he hasn't done right are the managerial appointments. We seem to sign these managers. They stay for 18 months and then they're gone. And a lot of them are quite inexperienced. I mean, a few that we've had, Darren Saul, Dino Mamria. You could even say Alex Ravel, who was manager this season, who's currently back with the first team again in the coaching role. But it's been a real issue for a long, long time. And unfortunately, because of that, we haven't been able to build a team and build an identity of football.
Yeah, it's a real challenge, I suppose. I mean, the first season when you came down, actually, you got into the playoffs, didn't you? I think that was under Wesley still. I think he was still in charge at that point. But since then, your best finish has been 10th, and actually the last few seasons have been a real slog, haven't they? I mean, You were saved by I can't remember if it was Macclesfield or Bury that saved you back in the COVID days, whatever it was. This season, you've just about kept your heads above water. It seems a strange one because you've always picked up these sort of players who get let go by your clubs like your Arsenals and your Spurs, the ones who aren't good enough to get like a championship level club, but still decent players. It doesn't feel like you may be getting those players anymore. Maybe you're just not getting the same quality of players you had been back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point to bring up. I mean, as you mentioned, 2 seasons ago, look, we've had a crazy 3 seasons at the club. That season 2 years ago was appalling, and we should have gone down. But yeah, you are correct. It wasn't just Bury; it was Bury and Macclesfield that kept us out. And I don't get me wrong; it was incredible when we found out we were staying up and we still had our Football League status. Everyone was so proud. But at the same time, we got out of jail. I think for us, it's just, as I said a minute ago, it's just been solely about getting a good manager, because I think what's happened at our club is we sign these managers, they don't recruit the best. We have a head of recruitment as well, which hasn't really done a great job. He's called Leon Hunter the past 10 years. And it's been a real slog. And even this season, we thought we, had recruited a good team. And unfortunately, a couple of managers that we had weren't good enough. And, brilliantly, we found ourselves a Football League guy now who in no time has kept us up and things look positive. But I think for us at Stevenage, it's very difficult to go out and sign the best players, because as a smaller club, we don't have the bigger funds. So we always have to rely on those loan players. I could give you an example. 3 years ago nearly, we had Elias Chair, and he came to the club. It was the 2019 season, and we nearly made the playoffs, and he was absolutely brilliant. He changed the team, and he was superb. And just players like that can change the kind of outlook at our club. But yeah, it's a real difficult one for us. With good sponsorship that we've got at the minute, next season looks bright with us staying up now, that we can actually provide some funds to Steve Evans and the management team to go and sign players. But yeah, look, we've had a crazy 3 years. I've been a Stevenage supporter for the best part of 20 years now, and I haven't known 3 seasons like it. So hopefully we're over that now. This season's been mental. We've had 4 different managers, which is just crazy to say. We had 1 away within 8 months. I think we're all over it now, and the fact that we've got over the line, we're ready for a new era at the club next season. I think we're all really excited to see how we get on and how we do.
Well, let's take a step back and talk about those 2 of those managers you had this season then. Alex Revel, first of all. I mean, last season, it was weird. You had an incredible defensive record, but you just could not score goals to save your lives in the first half of the season. I remember we beat you, was it 4-0 at Brunton Park? And I mean, that was a rarity, because you did not concede goals that season, and we battered you that day. And after that, you went on a brilliant run and got yourself up to, I think, 10 or something like that in the end. I think it was the top. I can't remember if it was the top half finish, but it was a good finish at least. What went wrong at the start of this season? Because it looked like he was building something there. And actually, when you looked at some of his signings, they looked like good, solid, experienced players. We didn't think you would be struggling on our podcast. We didn't, in our preview, we didn't say that.
To be honest with you, it's really simple, actually. So, obviously, we got a reprieve, from Macclesfield. And we didn't really know what league we were going to be in. I mean, we only got the reprieve a week before... Oh, not even a week before, 2 days before pre-season. So for us, we couldn't really go out and buy Football League level players or use the budget, because we just didn't know what league we were going to be in. So the start of the season, we were so poor because we'd signed a lot of non-league players because we expected to be in that division next season. So what had happened, we had those first 4 or 5 months with National League level players like Ini Effiong and Femi Akinwande, who all now play for Woking and God only knows who. And then what we simply did is, when we got to the January window, we started making Football League investments because we could. So, we signed players like Luke Norris, who's our top goal scorer at the minute. We signed Matty Stevens, who's just gone up with Forest Green. We signed Jack Aitchison, who's just gone up with Forest Green. We were able to make Football League investments. Tom Pett's another, who's at Port Vale, who played for us before. And then that, last 4 months of the season, those kind of changes that we made were the reason why we went on the run, because we had a Football League level team. So it's quite a simple one to answer, really. It's we were so poor at the start of the season because we had National League level players, because we thought we were going to be there. So the smart changes we made in January in the signings was probably the reason why we went on that run at the end of the season.
Yeah, and obviously things just didn't quite go right for Revel this season. It's just one of those things, isn't it? Tisdale came in to replace him. Now, Paul Tisdale's someone I think a lot of lower league fans admire for the work he did at Exeter and even did an alright job at MK Dons, getting them out of League Two as well. It doesn't seem to be working for him anywhere now. Is it just one of those things where maybe he's a manager who works at a certain club but doesn't really find a way of translating that to a club like Stevenage, maybe?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think people might disagree with what I'm going to say, but I feel like the football in League Two has evolved and got better. And I think if you look at the level and the standard that it is now, it was never like that 10 years ago. And I feel like when we appointed Tisdale, by the way, he's originally not the guy that we went for. We actually originally went for Steve Evans.
Yes, I remember that, yeah.
But they wanted £300,000 and we were like, well, we're never going to spend that. So he wasn't our first choice, Tisdale. It was Evans who we've obviously got now. But I think with Paul Tisdale, he was a great manager back in the day, but the football's evolved and changed. And I feel like you have a lot of these managers now that, and a few of them have dropped down into the non-league who still try to manage with that same kind of, I don't know what the word is, same tactics or whatnot from what used to work 10 years ago that doesn't work now. And I think that's what happened with Tisdale. His recruitment, if I'm being completely honest, was diabolical in January. He just didn't sign any good players. And we had a budget as well with the sponsorship. And that probably cost him. We had a little bit of a new player bounce back in January where we picked up some form and started putting some wins together. But very simply, he was just not good enough in the end. And some of the great things that he used to probably set his teams up 10 years ago, it just didn't work for us in this new era of football. So I liked his style. He was a clever guy. He's obviously, a very good head in football. But I think he's more of a director of football now rather than a manager. And I think that came clear when he was with us.
Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? Because I think when you've been at a club like Exeter for so long, you've been given time and patience to actually do things. When you're in a situation where it's a struggle, you're not going to get that time and patience. He saw that at Bristol Rovers as well, I guess, didn't he? Let's talk about the current man then. I mean, you guys certainly know how to pick a manager that not many other fans of other clubs like, don't you? Steve Evans is a man who certainly rubs a lot of people up the wrong way, and we all know about his past at Boston and what happened there and things that have happened at other clubs as well. But he does get results. There's no doubt about that. And he seems to be, it seems like your chairman has sort of set out a bit of ambition to say, right, I'm getting a man in here who's got a reputation of being able to do things to get us actually up the right end of the table. And what sort of effect has he had so far? Have the fans taken to him?
Yeah, look, Lee, first of all, we were over the moon. I mean, I said to you at the start of this kind of little discussion that, it's been well documented that we've struggled to appoint any football league managers probably for the last 10 years at our club. And I think for us at Stevenage, we felt like this was the first manager that we actually have appointed with recent relevant football league experience. So first of all, we were over the moon. He's who we wanted in November and couldn't get. So we were, again, over the moon that we got him. And I think you can see how good of a manager he is, because normally with these new managers come in and sometimes it takes them a month or 2 months to fully get going. He had an instant impact straight away. He came in, we had a game called off because of COVID, which we replayed last night against Mansfield, and then we went to Exeter, and it was one of the best performances I've seen in about 3 months. Should have nicked a point. A week later we lost to Oldham, but again, we're brilliant. I don't know how we didn't win that day, and then boom, got the first win. And since then, we've gone on to pick 10 points up in 15. He's been brilliant. He's got the job done that he was brought in to do. And we're all sitting here at Stevenage saying, this is it now. This is the guy that we feel is a perfect fit for our club. He's got all the right characteristics. In his interviews, he talks about our club like it's one of his favourites. And I think going forward next season and the future, we've got a real guy here that could be really successful at our club. So I think, speaking on everyone of us at Stevenage, we're very excited to have him, and we're very excited to see what we can do next season in the future, to be honest.
He's one of those guys, I suppose, if he's in charge of your club. I mean, I probably would never want him at Carlisle, but that's just my personal view. But if he's managing your club, you love him. If he's not managing your club, if he's against you, he's someone you're going to despise, isn't he? Because of the kind of character he is. But, I mean, Graham Wesley was like that. And let's talk about him briefly, because there was always a little bit of a rivalry back when we were in the conference for one season between our two clubs, wasn't there? There was a few ding-dong games, I think you'd call them that, and particularly, obviously, the playoff final. You beat us in the 2 league games, and obviously we got revenge in the playoff final. And our manager, Paul Simpson, actually still talks about that now. I think it's still something that riles him up. Can you remember back in those days? I mean, obviously, you would have been your early days of supporting Stevenage, I presume.
Yeah, no, I remember the days really well, and I was still heartbroken at the fact that Anthony Eldin missed that volley from the corner. It should have gone in. Oh my words! Yeah, I was gutted. I remember I was there that day. I was absolutely heartbroken. We had a little bit of rivalry, didn't we, back in the conference days? I think we have that with all the teams that used to play in the conference. I think you still keep that history, don't you, as the years go on. But yeah, Graham was a legend for us at the club. And it's really funny. I know it's kind of gone off the question a little bit, but Graham Wesley he's probably gone down as one of the most successful managers ever at our club. Yeah. And what's really funny is he actually came back a few years ago when we got the reprieve. And what's really funny about this is he ended up getting fired because he just couldn't turn the form around. But he nicked us a 4-0 win at Cambridge. And when we look back at the points deducted from Macclesfield, if we wouldn't have won that day, we would have got relegated even with Macclesfield's point deduction. So not only has he gone down in history as a manager that got us up to nearly the Championship, he kept us up, but we're convinced to say it. So yeah, look, Graham's a legend. And to link it to the Steve Evans thing, we actually see not a lot of Graham Wesley and Steve Evans, but they're similar in the fact that not a lot of people like him. So I think that's why we relate to Steve a lot more than we would do a Paul Tisdale, because we've experienced that element of having a manager that's not very well liked.
Yeah. Well, a couple more quick things before we finish, Matt. Firstly, just asking a little about in terms of developing your ground, because obviously since coming up to the league, one of the issues you had back in the day was that you didn't get into the Football League a couple of times, I think, because your ground wasn't up to scratch. Obviously, it's a bit better these days, and something fans might have noticed in the last couple of seasons is you've redeveloped one of the stands behind the goal as well, haven't you?
Yeah, you're completely right. That is something that I am really proud about in our club. I remember the old days with, looking at our ground, looking at it and thinking, wow, we're still a non-league looking image sort of side. And yeah, the North Stand, I've got a season ticket in it. I absolutely love it. I'll probably have a season ticket in it for the rest of my life. It's absolutely brilliant. The facility and the view is so proud that we've got that at our club at Stevenage. But yeah, no, the North Stand, we've actually been wanting to build that for a long, long time. And the council own our stadium. Yeah. And we've had to get permission off them to be able to build it. And they finally gave us permission a good few years ago to build it. So we were able to finally build it. And yeah, the stadium looks great. I mean, we're more than comfortable if we did go up to League One for there to, be no changes. Obviously, if you go up to the Championship, we probably have to upsize. But yeah, look, the stadium looks great. We've built that stand, and when you drive past that stand and the stadium on that side of the road, you look and you think that's a Football League club, rather than the old days of the white wall where you went past and went, oh, that looks like Bromley. Do you know what I mean? That's a non-league club. Yeah. So yeah, look, the stadium looks great, and also the commercial side of our club, I think that has to be noted. We've done some big things. We've had some big sponsorships, Burger King and Prime Gaming. We've got this season and for next season. So the club commercially has been a real positive. I think what a lot of people have been disappointed at is we've been so good commercially and so bad on the pitch the past 3 years that they want that to change. But obviously you've got to keep both. But yeah, the club looks great. We've got great people at the club, and the North Stand, it's fantastic. I love sitting in there every home game and watching a game of football. It's great.
One quick more question just to ask you about in terms of who's the players to watch for you. I think we're all expecting this weekend's game is going to be either a mad 5-5 draw or something like that, isn't it? Or it's going to be a drab 0-0, pointless game basically where everyone's like, why have we even bothered coming? I mean, we played Walsall the last day of last season. Generally one of the worst games of football I've ever seen in my life. Nothing happened in it. So hopefully it won't be that. But who are the players we should watch out for this weekend?
Firstly, look, we are really excited. I think for us, we were looking at this fixture going, we're going to have to win it, because we thought it was going to go down to the last day of the season. So the fact that we as a club are coming up to your ground to play you in a game where we're safe, it's just it's a brilliant thing to say as a Stevenage fan. We didn't think it would happen in a million years. One's to watch Luke Norris, without a shadow of a doubt. He's our top goal scorer. He's been pretty much the only guy that's really been scoring the goals for us for the past 5 months. I do believe he's got 15, 16 in all competitions. He's a Stevenage-born lad as well. He lives in Stevenage. So Luke Norris, 1,000,000%. But, there are some other good players. Elliot List, although Listy hasn't had the greatest form the past 4 months due to his injury. Before that, and for the first 5 months, he was scoring for nearly every other game. Brilliant pace off the shoulders. I'd put money on saying he's one of the fastest in the league. Elliot List is definitely one to watch for. Jamie Reid, another, popping up with a goal now and again. So really, any one of the 3 strikers, that's been one big positive for us this season, that all 3 strikers have actually scored a good handful amount of goals between each other. So any one of the strikers, and also keep an eye on Scott Cuthbert from corners. He's had a few this season. So, I would say they're the main players to watch out from. If I had to pick one, Luke Norris, probably.
Before I go into the prediction, actually, there's one more question I completely forgot to ask you about. I was looking through to try and see who the players who connect the 2 clubs are in each of the squads, and I can only find one, I think, and that's Jordan Gibson, who has been a real star for us this season. He's been like a bit of a revelation, having come over from Ireland, having had a short spell over there with a couple of clubs. How did he get on with you guys? I think he had a short spell. Was it a half-season loan spell with you?
Yeah, I actually remember him really well. This was only a few years ago. This was the same. He was signed exactly the same window as Ilias Chair was when we had Dino Manria, and that was we called it the Ilias Chair season because he was just he was one of the best players I've ever seen play for Stevenage. I remember Jordan really well. He came in. I'm going to be honest, he didn't set the world alight with us. He wasn't good at all. I actually remember him. This is really funny. He was playing a little bit and then he just didn't play at all. And he got dropped to come and play in our area. I don't know if it's similar to where you guys are up in Cumbria, but there's a little competition called the Hart Senior Cup. It's
we have a Cumbrian Cup, yeah.
Oh, do you? Bingo. Okay, so it's very similar to the Cumbrian Cup, that Hart Senior Cup. And he got put in that. And I remember going to watch Stevenage play at Cheshunt. Now, Cheshunt are just down the road from us in North London. And I remember watching him play that day in front of about 300 people. And so that kind of gives you how well he did at our place. And I remember watching him thinking, oh, God, I can't believe he's dropped down to here. And after that, we didn't really see him again, and then he was released. So he didn't really set the world alight with us. But he has been someone that I've seen for your lot, and he scored at our place. I remember thinking, oh, my God, there's Jordan Gibson playing for Carlo. So, yeah, look, he didn't hit it off with us, but it looks like he's gone on to do really well at your place. I'm quite happy for him because, he did seem like a good player.
I'm glad you've said that because Jordan's dad listens to the podcast. So just a little warning there. Yeah, he's a listener, so I'm sure he'll be listening in, and he may well agree he didn't have the best of times at Stevenage, but it's working out for us. Matt, big thank you for giving up your time. Shall we have a quick prediction from you for this weekend's game?
So my prediction, very simply, look, anyone that knows me knows I'm the most positive Stevenage fan going. Honestly, anyone from the club would say, who's your most positive Stevenage fan? It's Matt Farley, my country mile. So I'm feeling positive about the game. We lost last night against Mansfield, but tough place to go. I think the boys will come back and respond. And I think I said to someone in the week that our very first away game we won. We didn't get an away win for 8 months and then won away at Colchester in April, and I think we might win our last away game. So I'm going to go a sneaky 1-0 Stevenage win with Luke Norris in the last 10 minutes. And, hopefully we can get up near 50 points. So, I'm backing a 1-0 win.
Well, it massively depends on which Carlisle team turns up for us, because if a team that played Mansfield and Bristol Rovers turns up, I don't think you've got much chance. If the team that plays Harrogate turns up, you've got all 3 points to take home with you. Matt, thanks for giving up your time, and I'd say all the best for the rest of the season. There's only 2 games left anyway, and you're safe, so I don't wish you all the best because I hope we win at the weekend. So there you go. But yeah, safe journey up, and hope you enjoy your day in Carlisle. Yeah,
look, Lee, thank you very much. Thanks for having me on. And again, I'm very looking forward to coming back to your place next season. So, we're looking forward to it. And hopefully next season our 2 teams can get promoted to League One, and then we can all do it in League One again, can't we?
That would be nice. Cheers, mate.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks once again to Matt for giving up his time to speak to us about all things Stevenage. Certainly very passionate about his team, and he's coming up for the game this weekend despite the fact that it's a dead rubber. That's certainly dedication to say the least. So this weekend we take on Stevenage at Brunton Park. Normal Saturday 3 o'clock kickoff for this one. Referee Darren Drysdale. Name might seem familiar to you. There's a good reason for that. He's an RAF sergeant, and he's in his 18th season as an EFL referee. He's taken charge of 34 games so far this season, handing out 112 yellow cards and 3 red cards. You probably remember him, though, because he was famously involved in an incident a couple of seasons ago, wasn't he, Dan? With Alan Judge.
Alan Judge, wasn't it? A bit of a...
Yeah, they had a bit of to do. It was basically towards the end of a game. I think he didn't give a decision in Judge's favour. And Judge was basically screaming in his face. Basically, I think called him the C word, didn't he? And essentially, Drysdale did not back down. He's quite a tall bloke, Drysdale, isn't he? He's he's an RF sergeant, isn't he? So of course he's going to be a big fella. But he basically stood up to him and essentially rutted heads almost, didn't they? Really, it was a kind of weird sort of thing. But yeah, he actually got a suspension as a result of that. But he'd actually already served it because he basically stood down from officiating for a short while it was sorted out. So essentially, they accepted that as time in lieu almost. It's the first time he's refereed United, though, since he last took charge of the 1-0 defeat at Mansfield in September 2018. But he also famously was a referee on the day when United drew 1-1 at Field Mill and secured promotion to League One, under Paul Simpson. So a little bit of a connection there. Head-to-head wise, 24th meeting between the two sides. United have won 11, 6 have been a draw, and 6 wins for Stevenage so far. Last season, Stevenage finished 14th in League Two. I didn't realise they'd finished that high, actually, when I was looking, because they had a really dreadful first half of the season last year, didn't they? From what I remember. And famously, they had a really strong defence, but an absolutely appalling attack.
Mm.
But then they came to Brunton Park and got absolutely battered by us 4-0, didn't they? With was it Joe Riley scored that brilliant volley from a long throw?
Yeah.
That game, yeah. Really, really good finish that was. So 14th they finished, which was quite an achievement considering they didn't know what division they were going to be in at the start of last season, did they? Because obviously there was all the to do with Macclesfield and Bury, and they got a reprieve literally 2 days before the fixtures were due to be confirmed. So they basically had signed players ready for non-league football, thinking they were going to go down, and then had to rebuild again in January. So it's quite incredible, really, how much they turned it around there. This season, it's been worse than last season. 22nd currently on 44 points from 44 games. Nice little round couple of numbers there. 2 positions below and 6 points less than United. So a point today basically guarantees us a point this weekend guarantees us 20th place and keeps Barrow and Stevenage below us for this season, which has got to be the aim, surely, you'd hope. Well, let's talk about their manager, shall we, guys?
Do we have to?
I mean, normally when I do these manager preview bits, I try and keep them nice and short and brief to the point. But there's so much to talk about with Steve Evans, isn't there?
Mm.
He is not a character that, is overly popular by fans of most clubs, including some of the clubs he's actually managed. But he's a character. I mean, that's one way you describe it, isn't it? I think you can probably think of another word beginning with C to describe him. But, but yeah, I mean, they got him at their second attempt in March. They tried to get him from Gillingham, didn't they? Back in December, I think it was. Gillingham wanted 300 grand to bring him in. So instead, they went for Paul Tisdale. Gillingham ended up sacking Evans a few weeks later anyway, and they basically bombed off Tisdale to bring in Evans finally. But yeah, controversy's always followed him around, hasn't it, Dan? I think it's fair to say. We always remember back in the day when he was managing back in the old conference, as it was back then, before even like Conference North or South existed, didn't he? They were in the Southern League, Boston. He got them promoted to the conference, and then they flew through the conference. They had who was the name of the striker they had? Was it Ken Sharley or something like that? I think it was. The lad who played for Barnet back in the day, I think.
Ken Sharley,
I think that's him. Yeah, and he scored for fun, didn't he, for them? But turned out his wage that he submitted to the FA in the contracts was something like £100 a week, wasn't it? But he was actually getting most of his pay in expenses, which obviously avoids tax, doesn't it? And he didn't know about this, apparently. He presumed he was just getting paid his full wages. He wasn't actually... So he never... I don't think he ever got in trouble. It wasn't his fault. But apparently this was happening with quite a few other players. Essentially, that's how they managed to avoid a lot of tax. And basically, even though he got them promoted to the league, Evans, he essentially ended up getting sacked, didn't he? Well, he said he walked out basically on the club because he got suspended and later resigned after an FA investigation into contract irregularities at the club. Saw him banned from football for 20 months, and he was also fined £8,000 for impeding the inquiry. The FA charges led to a criminal investigation where he pleaded guilty to conspiring to cheat the public revenue and received a 12-month prison sentence, suspended for 2 years. So yeah, fair to say, it all ended badly at Boston, you think, wouldn't you? No, he returned to Boston 2 years later. They reappointed him as manager, now established in the Football League. Wasn't overly popular. I think the Boston United Supporters Trust were not happy with the fact that he was brought back in and continued to protest over him being employed by the club after that. And controversy followed him again. I mean, this is a list of some of the things he did at Boston in his second spell. September 2005, Evans and 4 other people connected to Boston appear in court denying fraud charges. Bear in mind, this is in his second spell. This is carried over from the first spell. November 2005, given a £1,000 fine, suspended for a year after admitting to using insulting or abusive words to a match official. February 2006, I remember this happening. I remember it being incredible at the time. He was escorted from Grimsby Stadium by Humberside police at half-time after berating the fourth official over a handball decision that wasn't given. In October 2006, he was sent from the dugout after an altercation with Wycombe midfielder Tommy Docherty and later received another £1,000 suspended fine from the FA. Resigned from Boston after they got relegated to the conference and then quickly took over at Crawley Town. Again, controversy followed him. Managed to pick up a 10-match ban during the 2008-09 season after being sent from the dugout on numerous occasions. He did get the club promoted to the EFL, to be fair to him, in a season where they actually made the FA Cup 5th round, only losing 1-0 to Manchester United at Old Trafford in a game that they reckoned earned them £1 million. So obviously, things like that certainly help a club, don't they?
Crawley beat Torquay, who beat us, so we could have played Man United.
I remember that now. You're absolutely right. It's a really good point that I'd completely forgotten about that, but there you go.
And that game against Torquay was Jean Michel Gabarsin, one of his...
Marco Gabarsin, yeah. Marco Gabarsin's first goal, yeah. But I think Thomas Cruz played in that game. Might be his last game for us as well.
Well, he put a kit on. I wouldn't say he played.
Yeah, that's probably a fair way of putting it, isn't it? So he left Crawley in April 2012, just weeks before they were about to secure promotion to League One to take on the job at Rotherham. The Millers had missed out on the playoffs that season, but in the season after, he got them promoted to League One, finishing in second place, and then secured promotion to the Championship through the playoffs the season after as well. So 2 seasons in a row, promotions at Rotherham. I think he's still quite popular there. Still a slight hangover from Crawley, though, because in September 2012, he was given a 6-match stadium ban and fined £3,000 by the FA after being found guilty of using abusive and insulting words and behaviour towards a female member of Bradford City's staff. That obviously happened when he was in charge as Crawley manager. Again, that's a game I remember that was really controversial at the time for what happened with it. Kept Rotherham in the Championship in his first season there. Then he left the club and was appointed by Leeds United, but he only lasted 1 season. I mean, they were owned by Massimo Cellino at the time, and they were just a basket case, really, weren't they? He then went to Mansfield Town, where he replaced former Blues player Adam Murray. Lasted only 15 months at Midfield Mill. This is amazing, this bit though, right? He resigned on the 27th of February 2018 and stated he wanted to go and work in China. Now, he turned down a deal when he was at Rotherham to go and manage in China, I think it was, because of for family reasons. So there was a connection there. So basically he said, 27th of February 2018, I'm leaving Mansfield because I want to go and work in China. On 28th of February, Evans was appointed as boss of Peterborough United, that famous Chinese team.
Yeah.
So, as you can imagine, he's not very popular at Mansfield. In fact, Stevenage played at Mansfield in midweek, and apparently he was getting all kinds thrown at him. They had to be escorted off the pitch at half-time and at full-time. It was, an interesting one there. He only lasted 11 months after being sacked a few days after being charged by the FA over comments made to a match official in a defeat to Luton. A few months later, he popped up at Gillingham, where he led them to 2 consecutive 10-play finish. Once again, charged with abusing a match official there. He'll certainly want to be... He makes Graham Wesley, seem like a lovely chap, doesn't he, really? He's a bit of a vile piece of work, isn't he? I think it's fair to say, Dan.
Yeah, he's just a gobshite, isn't he?
Basically, he's one of those people, I suppose, if he manages and you do well, you probably quite love him, don't you? Because he is that kind of character.
He's basically the modern day Barry Fry, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He certainly is. And he's. I've no doubt he'll probably do quite well at Stevenage because he does seem to have a habit of building teams together, and when he's got a bit of money to spend, especially. But yeah, I think did he take Adam Collin to Rotherham as well? I seem to remember actually. I think I'm pretty sure Adam Collin was at Rotherham at the time.
I think so. Yeah, it's about that time, wasn't it?
So yeah, around about that time, wasn't it? So there you go. So that's Steve Evans for you. I thought it was worth giving a bit more background for some younger fans who may not know about what kind of a character he is, but let's just say not a very nice one, to put it bluntly. As I mentioned there just a minute ago, their last game was a 2-0 defeat at Evans' former club Mansfield Town. Lost thanks to goals from George Lapsley and Matty Longstaff. In terms of form, they actually are 9th in the last 6 games form table, record of lost 1, drawn 1, lost. United are currently 22nd. Obviously only lost once in the last 5 games, which was that Mansfield game. Those wins, Dan, and draw have cost you money, haven't they? Probably.
Yeah.
And obviously Barrow as well, not picking up a bit of form under Phil Brown.
Yeah.
Because obviously they've both managed to pull away, haven't they? And
the dream died.
Yeah, sadly. It was nice while it lasted, I suppose.
I've still got AFC Wimbledon in League One holding the fort for me, so I'll get my money back.
Yeah, fair dues. Quick look through their squad then.
It's very experienced.
There's a lot of experience in good areas, isn't there? I suppose, Bostwick's one we said in January, wasn't it? That looked a really good side for them. Don't think
He's got
quite
a very good beard, Bostwick, as well.
He has, it's a terrific beard. I don't think it's quite worked out as they hoped. You don't think he's played quite as much or done quite as well. Scott Cuthbert as captain, he's a very good defender at this level. You've mentioned Ben Coker a couple of times, haven't you, Dan? As someone who's been a bit
Prosser
unlucky
as well. Prosser as well. You look through it, there's some good players, isn't he? I mean,
like Ed Upson in midfield. Again, he's on the bench lately. Jake Reeves and Jake Taylor both played at a decent level at this level. Chris Lyons from Bristol Rovers. In attack, Elliot List always seems to play really well against us. Luke Norris. Bruno Andrade was, it was the next big hope, wasn't he, at Salford when he went there? That didn't really work out for him.
Jamie Reid as well. He bagged 32 for Torquay a couple of years ago.
Struggled a bit at Mansfield there, didn't he? Never really made the same impact. In terms of goalkeepers, they've got Christy Pym on loan from Peterborough United. He's one I've always thought he's a decent enough shot stopper, but he's only about 5'10", isn't he? He's a very small keeper. And sometimes you get those small keepers who actually are quite good at dealing with crosses. From memory, he's not very good at dealing with crosses at all. I seem to remember when he played for Exeter against us, he played in the playoffs, didn't he? And we did target him a little bit for that. So it'd be interesting to see whether we actually use that tactic this week. And maybe it's a game if he's fit. Stick Toby in maybe for the game. See how he does. But I'd expect he might change things up a little bit for this game, Evans, because he's already said he's starting to assess the squad for next season. And they might have a little bit of investment in something because they've got quite a big sponsor, haven't they? Amazon Prime Gaming. They get some decent sponsors, don't they? Had Burger King last season, I think it was, a couple of seasons ago. So yeah, they certainly do pick up a few. Talk about United then now. Mike, in terms of injuries, near enough a clean bill of health, isn't there, at the moment? Obviously, slight doubts over Toby and Dinell, but maybe could see Jamie Devitt this weekend?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe not starting. But yeah, if he could sort of do 30 minutes or even 45 or so, that'd be good to see. Because Simmo, it was all a bit in the air, wasn't it, with Devitt when he got his injury about whether Simmo would stay, and Simmo sort of seemed to indicate that the club will look after him, and he might not be offered a contract in the summer, but he might sort of be able to train with us and then go from there.
I think he'll be offered one more for the fact that he's A, experienced, B, he gets a club. He won't play every game probably. No. He does get knocks, but I think he's quite good for the bants. I hate that word, but
he's a good character, isn't he? Basically,
I think he's liked in dressing rooms. You don't see many bad words about Jamie Devitt.
Well, it's the fact you look at the fact that when he's been out injured, he's still been going to the games, hasn't he? He's been coming along with the squad where he can. I think it's a bit more difficult for some of the players. Like Callum Guy, he's got a knee injury. You don't really want to be travelling as much and seeing you as well. But it just shows the commitment Devin's got to the club, doesn't it, really? And I agree with you. I think he might get a deal because I think he might look right. I need to build around good characters. I've already got one here. The fans really like him. When he can play, he's a really good player at this level. I think personally, I think it's a no-brainer, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was let go because of the injury issues, possibly. But
although at the same time you say the injury issues, given his age and his recent injury record, I don't think his wages would be particularly high. So it'd be relatively low risk at our end, I think. No,
absolutely. I think you're right there. In terms of the team, I mean, I'll ask you this one, Dan, because you watched them last weekend. Do you think he'll change it up and look at a couple of players? I have a funny feeling he's going to change things.
I'd put Devitt in from the start in that midfield, Christ.
I wouldn't be surprised if he did, to be honest, even if he's fit.
I think Alexandra might drop back to the bench. He had a very quiet game, which was a shame because he had a good game the week before, But like I say, maybe it could be one for Shaw Silver. But he's got a bit of a knock, hasn't he? So I think Dennis will start. Dennis will start beside Patrick. Yeah. I think we may see a change in the middle and the defence. There was Simmo came off with a knock, didn't he?
Yeah, it was basically. I think he's like he landed badly or something.
So I would imagine he'll be fit. If not, we might see McDonald back in, but
possibly, who knows? Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, interesting. Well, let's have some match predictions then, guys. Dan, do you want to go first?
3-0 win.
It's a dangerous one, that one, following up after the embarrassment that was Harrogate for our predictions.
Jekyll and Hyde, aren't we?
Oh, that's true enough, isn't it?
And it'll be Patrick, Dennis and Shaw Silver, all the strikers.
Okay. Mike, what are you going for?
I'm going to go for a 2-0 win, and I'm going to go for Patrick, and I'm going to go for Simmo getting his goal in the 93rd minute Q pitch invasion.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go for a 3-0 win as well, like Dan, despite what I just said. And I'm going to go for goals from Patrick, Devitt and Simmo as well. I think Simmo will get a goal, so that's what I'm going to go for. Right, before we do the X-Files, do we want to do the quiz question answer?
Yes, because I've got answers wrote down everywhere here.
Right, okay. So like I said, there's in total 14 players who scored at least 6 league goals.
I have 14 players on my list.
Oh, right, okay. Well, do you want to... Mike, do you want to throw a couple in first? Because Dan obviously is going to list as many as he can.
Yeah, I'll throw a few in. So, obviously, Carl Hawley.
Start with the obvious one here. Carl Hawley is top with 35 goals over the Simpson spells. So, yeah, that's an obvious one. That's a tick for you there. I don't think that's a shock to Dan. I don't think you can have that one on his list. But there you go. So, he's top. Now, interestingly, who do you think is second and third on the list? Do you want to have a go, Dan, over this one?
I'm not bothered about lists. I've just got players who scored goals.
Okay, well, I'll let Mike have a crack at the top 3, and then we'll.
No. Get Patrick out of the way.
All right, well, Patrick's on this one. Patrick is indeed on there. He's got 6 on there. He's the only one from the current spell.
Yeah.
First, second, I'm a bit torn, but I'll say Michael Bridges.
Michael Bridges is third on 15. Someone scored one more goal than Bridges.
Was it Chris Lumsden?
It was indeed. 16 goals for Chris Lumsden. There you go. That's your feet. Now, Dan, you'll have a crack at a few more now.
Yeah. Derek Holmes must be in there.
Homer is in 5th place with 12 goals.
Andy Priest.
Andy Priest is in joint 6th with 2 other players on 10.
Magno Vieira.
Yeah.
Another one of the joint 6 players. He's on 10 goals.
I'm going to mention Craig Farrell again.
Craig Farrell is... Let me just double check I've got this right. Did I say joint 5th there? Hang on. I'm trying to count down here to make sure I've got the right number. I think he's not... He's in the list, by the way, just to remove any tension there. But basically, Craig Farrell got 9 goals, so he's just below.
And the other obvious attacking player is Simon Hackney.
He got 6, yes. During that season, we got promoted.
Glenn Murray's got to be one, hasn't he?
Did he say Glenn Murray?
Yeah. Oh!
No, Glenn Murray only got, I think, 4 or 5, maybe.
He scored a few in the conference, though.
He only scored 2 in the conference.
Oh.
Or was it 3? It's one way, either way around, I can't remember.
I've got a load of defenders now to go through.
Right. Come on then, Dan. Let's have a few.
Peter Murphy.
Peter Murphy,
Yeah.
10 goals. He got 10
Danny
goals season
Livesey.
twice. Danny Livesey just sneaks in on 6.
And Kev Gray.
Kev Gray got 8.
And I think he took penalties possibly now and again. Arenaldo?
Did you say Arenaldo?
Yeah.
5. 5 in that first.
Ah,
in that,
5.
because it's only one season, remember, with Arenaldo. That's the thing. So you're missing 2, basically. There's 2
Brendan
players you're
McGill.
missing. Brendan McGill, correct.
I was
14.
just going to say Brendan McGill.
14 goals. And who's the other one? There's one player left. He got 6 goals.
Ooh. Oh, Richie Fram.
No, he only got,
No.
I think, 3 or 4 that season.
Nah.
I can't be bothered pressing the wrong button again, so that's...
Let me just have a quick think. 6 goals, 6 goals, 6 goals. Is it someone random?
Oh, not really.
Not Simon Grand, is it? No.
No, Simon Grant didn't.
Not Adam Murray.
Nope. Do you want me to put you out of your misery?
No, let me have one more guess. I will go with Paul Simpson himself.
Yes, it was Paul Simpson. Considering I said it earlier, I thought you'd get that one really quickly. But
that's what made me say it, yeah.
Paul Simpson was 6, so there you go. That's your full list. So basically, I'll go through it now. Hawley got 35, Lumsden got 16, Bridges 15, McGill 14, Holmes 12, and then you've got Murphy, Priest and Vieira all on 10 goals, Craig Farrell on 9, Kev Gray on 8, and then Simon Hackney, Danny Livesey, Amari Patrick and Paul Simpson all on 6 goals. There we go. Right, so let's move on then to the X-Files section, Dan. A busy one this week in terms of goals and also promotions and relegations as well.
Yeah, business end of the season. Start off with the goals weekend. James Tavernier scored a penalty for Rangers in the 3-1 win over Motherwell. Jordan Marshall scored in Dundee's 1-1 draw with St Johnstone. Gary Medine scored a penalty for Blackpool. Joe Garner scored a bizarre goal in Fleetwood's draw with Wimbledon.
It was really
didn't
mad,
help
this.
both teams, really, did it?
No, it was a mad one, wasn't it? So essentially, Wimbledon are 1-0 up. On for their first win since December, it should be pointed out. And they were given a free kick just inside the box. And obviously, they sent everybody up. And the keeper then had a complete brain fart, didn't he? He just forgot that he'd been given a free kick and started dribbling the ball out. And obviously, the ref blows and says, well, you can't do that. That's an indirect free kick now to Fleetwood. Fleetwood took it short. And actually, it's a really smart little finish from Garner, wasn't it?
It's worth Googling, yeah.
He was just absolutely nuts.
Yeah. Harry McCurdy returned from injury, scored twice in Swindon's 3-0 win at Hartlepool. More on him shortly. Conor Malley scored for Gateshead in the 1-1 with Kettering. Into midweek, Joe Garner scored again in Fleetwood's 3-2 defeat to Sheffield. Richie Bennett scored for Sutton in the 3-0 win over Crawley. Jack Bridge scored for Southend in the 1-0 over Boreham Wood. And Big Byron Webster scored in Bromley's 1-1 with Aldershot. Promotions and relegations. Jack Marriott relegated to League One with Peterborough. Zanzala promoted to League One with Exeter.
That was a weird one, wasn't it? Because he was there celebrating in the Exeter dressing room, having just beaten his parent club, Barrow, which he obviously didn't play in that game. But strange.
Oldham went down, as we well know. So that was John Sheridan, Hallam Hope, and Nicky Adams.
But with that one, I've just got to say something on that before we go on a bit further. Some of our fans crowed about that, saying, "Oh, good enough for Hallam Hope" and stuff like that. I've got to mention this again, but Hallam Hope's celebration against us in the thing, he had every right to the celebration with the way some of our fans treated him. Was that chant? It's a vile chant. Needs kicking out of football. It's pointless. So just getting on my high horse a little bit there.
Grow
Yeah,
up.
exactly.
Josh Todd relegated to Scottish League One with Queen of the South. And Callum Higginbottom also went to League One, but upwards with Kelty Hearts. Other news, I'll leave Lee for the very last one of these, but Harry McCurdy was named in the EFL League 2 of the season, as well as the Team of the Week, and his usual weird dress sense. I mean, white trainers with Chelsea graffiti on and a white hat. He just looked an absolute tool.
Yeah.
Cole Stockton didn't get goal of the season or a place in the League One team of the season, and he put up quite a funny tweet about it, saying, "Must have a wrong badge on my shirt."
And I've got to play some audio from one of the tweet replies to this because it was brilliant.
Here to report a crime. Yeah. An international war crime, right?
That's exactly what it was.
That was the first reply to it, wasn't
brilliant.
it?
And it's straight, to be fair. I mean, I'm not being funny, but he scored that many goals in it. I know it's picked by the managers and, that they'll make their judgments, but I mean, it shows how underrated he's been, really, for the job he's done at Morecambe.
And Owen Moxon of Annan was in the Scottish League 2 team of the season. And I'll leave this last one to Lee.
So this one is one that we spotted on Twitter. Someone had posted it up. It's quite funny. So Stockport County had done this little feature thing, hadn't they? Basically, of like, when they talk to players and ask them weird sort of questions about different things, like what's your favourite music, what's your first car, things like that. And they did one with Paddy Madden. And one of the questions was, what would your last meal be on death row? This is Paddy Madden's response.
Some sort of wrap, chicken wrap.
Paddy, you can have whatever meal you want. You don't. You're not training for a game at Solihull Moors. You're able to go to the chair and get fried. Have whatever you want, mate.
What I would have is there's a fast food chain in America called Johnny Rockets, and they give you unlimited fries. So I'd get a burger and unlimited fries, and then they can't execute me because I'm still eating my chips.
Yeah, that's one way of getting out of it. So there you go. So that's this week's episode done. Thanks once again, lads, for joining me. A really busy one, actually. It's going to be pushing on 100 minutes. That's how long it is. Thanks once again to our sponsors, the London branch. Really appreciate their support this season. And I know it's made a big difference to them because we've heard that a few people have actually joined up as a result listening to the podcast. In terms of upcoming episodes, we've got one more regular season episode to follow next week where we'll discuss what we think the retain list should be. And obviously then after that, we'll do a little roundup from the Bradford game. We might even record some bits there so we can cover that bit. And then we'll obviously be discussing the retain list the week after in terms of who Simmo decides to keep. And we'll also look at what the makeup's going to be of League 2 next season, because obviously the few teams getting confirmed now. A few teams come down from League 1. We'll possibly have teams confirmed from the National League by then. Maybe Stockport will finally wrapped up promotion. So we'll be
going to Doncaster unless they win 28-0 and two other teams get beat.
There'll be some effort that, wouldn't it? I think it's fair to say. And that's it. So we'll also be back next week with a preview of the Bradford game, and then we've got a few episodes to follow, and then we'll take a short summer break. We'll have a few episodes to go out of that period. We won't be news-based ones, basically, but maybe featurey sort of ones, so we'll see how it goes. But Dan, Mike, thanks once again for joining me. Really appreciate it. Thanks everyone for listening, and most importantly of all, up the Blues.
Up the Blues.